The most insane realization I've had about learning is that learning is a game. Not talent, not a gift, but a game. And like any game, it has rules and it has players who play it better than others. So today I'm going to give you 2 rules that have helped me personally and hundreds of students we've coached over the years to consistently score amazing marks in all their exams. That too while understanding the concept without stressing themselves out. So a quick intro before we start. I'm Tejas. I'm the mentor and founder here at Club 90. We've been in the business of educating people for over 35 years. And throughout the years, we've gathered a lot of information, a lot of data that has helped us shape and mold people and get them scoring better throughout the years. So Club 90 is our latest addition to the course list. We've run colleges, we've run tuition centers, we've run other coaching programs, computer science education programs. Bunch of them has been hugely successful, and over the years, hundreds of students have passed out. And currently, Club 90 focuses on Class 9 and Class 10 CBSE students, and it's a 2-year program. We help them get through it without all the stress and strain traditional education gives them. Okay, so number 1. The rule number 1 is something called active recall. The more I understood it, the more I realized that active recall is not simply just trying to remember. Okay? In a surface level, yeah, it is trying to remember what you've learned, but active recall is much more than that. When I talk about active recall, you already have a level of progress that you've made. You already learned something, all right? Let's say you learned X, Y, and Z. Now, according to the forgetting curve, which simply is a curve that shows how much you've learned or the percentage of information you've gathered versus time, right? Now, let's take those times in days. What forgetting curve tells us that even if you start on the first day, if you've gone to 100%, you will be down to 60% by the very next day or just in a gap of 1 day. And this level keeps on going down as the days continue. Now, that's a problem because most students, what they do is they learn something, be it X, be it Y, be it Z, or whatever you're learning, and then they never go back to it again. And they don't realize that because it feels so productive at the time that when they are studying, learning this 100% and then being done with it is the most important part for them. It feels productive. It feels amazing to get over with the subject. And at the moment, yeah, you do realize you can remember most of the stuff. But then they go to the next day and then they choose a different subject. Now, this subject or this topic or whatever they've learned here keeps on deteriorating, be it questions, problems, or reading, anything it be. Now, then they start a whole new other curve where they learned, let's say if this was math and this is science, now they have a new 100, which keeps on decreasing, right? The next day. And then they just go on to the next one and the next one and the next one or a different topic, whatever it may be. Now, the problem with this is they don't realize that they are actually losing information. So what active recall essentially does for us is active recall helps us combat this. Now, let me show you. When I talk about active recall specifically, it's about test, confirm, test. Okay? This is what I use and we teach here. What testing is, before you try to hit back anything or try to remember something, what you do is first test yourself on how much you remember. Go into a test right off the bat. Don't just try to read textbooks or review notes or anything. Go into a test. Answer the best you can. You might score 90, you might score 70, you might score 20. Don't matter. Then you go confirm that what you've answered and what you don't know. Here's where we confirm or we review the thing. Now, the next part of that comes down to test again. Now that you've reviewed and confirmed it, you got to make sure that it's stuck. Try answering it again. Now, you will have a huge amount of increase from maybe 20 to almost 100% instantly, or at least 60% improvement. Yeah. And that's amazing. Now that's what we're looking for. Then you might have a question. Can I actually keep on continuing this every single day? Does that mean I have to actually study everything that I've learned every single day to keep it in my memory? Not exactly. I'll tell you something about that. Brings us to our second principle called spaced repetition. Now, what spaced repetition is, it's just an add-on to our first concept of active recall. Now, when active recall teaches us that you have to test, you have to review, then you have to test yourself again. And when spaced repetition tells us when you should actually do that. Now, let's bring back the forgetting curve, right? Now, the forgetting curve tells us even if you have 100%, by the first day, it'll be down to 60%, right? But If you review it the very next day, you can take it back to 100 again. But something special happens here. It does not actually decrease the same rate as it did when you first came to this information. So if you're studying this stuff for the first time on day 1, then the next day down to 60, expected. But when you come back to it the second day, you're actually reviewing it. You test yourself, you reviewed it, you're testing yourself again. Now the slope of the forgetting curve actually gets elongated. Now what you took to come to 60% in one day, you might now come for that in 2 days, a 2-day gap. You see where I'm going with this? Now, you study back again on the third day, slope increases. Now, you might have a week. So essentially, understanding the days when you do need to test and review and where you don't need to test and review, we get to know those days using spaced repetition. According to spaced repetition, what we personally use is, so you've studied the date, okay? Then you space review 1 day after it, the third day, the 7th day, the third week, then we go to 1 month, then 2, then 5. Usually we just hit 2-month mark, which is like the solid part for us. But if it's like a long-term project or if it's like 2 years or a course or something, then we go into the 5-month mark too. Okay? And we can keep taking this further. We can keep going to 7 months in gap. Now, these are the gaps you should follow. 1-day gap, 3-day gap, 7-day gap. Now, third week, I just meant like 2 weeks gap. All right, then a month gap. The 2 months gap, 5 months gap, keep on doing this. Now, I know you might be skeptical about this at the beginning, but just think about it. Do you remember the first time you actually learned a language? Or do you remember the first time you actually picked up something on your own while you were a child? All that information was never actually taught to you, right? No one actually taught you the grammar. No one actually taught you the language basics. You just picked it up. You speak your mother tongue like that. All of us picked up languages on our own when we were babies by listening to others, right? Now that was actually active recall and spaced repetition without us actually knowing about it. Think about it. When you wanted something when you were a baby, you did not know how to communicate. Your brain automatically tried to figure it out. It tested itself. It tried saying words. It tried mumbling stuff, our parents or whoever we're talking to. And we tried it over and over again and reviewed it and got better. It worked. Essentially, we got what we were looking for. Now, a language is second nature to you. You can speak it without thinking it. You can express your thoughts as soon as they arrive in your brain, right? That's what we're trying to do with any subject that you want to learn. Because you don't truly understand something if it's not second nature to you almost. You need it to be second nature to you. And you need it to be able to explain it to others in a simple way that whatever level they're standing at, you're able to communicate it freely. If you don't have that level of communication, you're truly not doing it. Okay, so that's the 2 methods we use. Now I'll tell you exactly how you can use them in your day-to-day. First thing I want you to do after this video, I want you to go and try out this immediately. Take a book, take whatever you're studying, do a set amount of quantity, try to remember it, then go into spaced repetition. When or should you remember? The first day, the third day, the 7th day, the third week or a 2-week gap, then the 4-week gap or a month later, 2 months later. I promise you, in the long run, this will be the most returning thing for you ever. Because you can spend days and you can spend years studying or supposedly reviewing and reading and highlighting notes and watching videos. Sure, it might help you get through an exam, maybe 2, but it won't help you along the long run where you actually have to score big. Because the only difference I see in students who consistently score big is that they understand the thing and they're willing to study for a little amount of time. They're not willing to study for a long amount of time. They're willing to study for a little amount of time. And in that time, all they do is learn something small, new, and review what they have already learned. That's it. That's all they actually do. They don't write same amount of notes. They don't make presentations and presentations of information. All they do is learn however they can, maybe a page, maybe 2, or maybe a topic or 2, and then they just review what they've learned the last class. That's it. That's all they do. And that has actually helped most number of students, whatever level they started at, be an average student, be an underperforming student, to have an insane amount of gain in their total marks in the end of the game. And even if marks are not what you're looking for, concept clarity insanely increases with this too. Because think about it. If you're able to remember something and recall it, the more time you remember and recall it, the simpler you will try to remember and recall. It's just how we are wired. So if you try to remember the location or remember a particular place, okay? The second time you remember it, you'll try to remember all the details. Then third time, you try to remember a few details and all the other details automatically come to you. In that way, you can actually reduce the number of times you recall and make it more efficient, and your brain does this on its own. You don't even have to worry about it. So that's the technique that you have to do. Now, even with these techniques, consistency is key. You just got to do this consistently and trust the process. So that's it for today, guys.